Hello everyone, this is Paula from cropnotesandcrafts.blogspot.com, and I have a card to show you today. This is some brayer work that I did, and I oftentimes have questions about how I do this, so I thought I would explain how I put this card together. This is on a card front that is a 5x7, and a 5x7 is approximately 13, it's over 12.5 centimeters by nearly 18 centimeters. So for you European gals out there, that's the size of the card front that I'm working on. I work on very, very smooth white cardstock. And I get this cardstock either from Stampin' Up. Their wicker white cardstock is very, very smooth. And then there's also another paper that I can get from Marco Paper, which you can go online and order from them if you need to also. And they carry a paper that's called Beckett Expressions, and the color, I believe, is the White Radiance. So those papers work very, very well for brayer work. Okay, the first thing that I did is that I stamped the image of my garden scene, and that is this stamp, and it is a Scrolls Work stamp. Here's the information if you need that. You can go to their website, www.scrollswork.com, if you would like to order the stamps. And this is number 4544, and so first I just stamped that image with black StazOn ink. Okay, so I wanted a permanent ink that will withstand water-based inks, because that's what I'm working with. I stamped the image and I colored the image. And coloring my image, this is the favorite way I like to watercolor. I like to do a lot of watercoloring, but this is called an aqua painter or an aqua pen. This particular one is made by Pentel. It's made in Japan. They're really great. There are some other aqua painters that are not as good, that have Taklon bristles. I would stay away from those because they just kind of move the paint around and sometimes lift the paint. So I do prefer this particular aqua painter, or one with similar bristles would be my recommendation. So I used that, and then I colored this with water-based inks. Part of these were Stampin' Up inks. A few of them were the Ranger Distress inks from Tim Holtz. I have the entire set of these ink pads. The nice thing about them is that, to begin with, the pad is stored upside down so that your ink is always there and the pad is wet. But the great thing about this particular ink pad, if you like to watercolor, is that if you press it in the middle like this, you will actually put some ink on the lid, and you can use this as your palette. And I can just go in here and pick up some of this ink and apply it. So that's one of the things that I really like about these stamp pads. Not the highest quality inks out there, but they are very handy ink pads. So here are some of the colors that I used to color the image. I used certainly celery. There were several others that I used. I think Going Gray was another one. I didn't bring all of them out. I brought most of them. Creamy caramel, apricot peel, so saffron, and then of the Ranger inks, I used tea dye and aged mahogany. And the pink that you see here is actually the aged mahogany. I just didn't pick up a lot of the ink when I applied it to my card here. Okay, once I colored the image, then I went in with my Versamarker watermark pen. Okay, this has two different tips, and a lot of times I'll start with this fine tip, go around my edges, and then I color in with this larger tip. Once I have that colored, then I use clear embossing powder and I heat that and cover my image. And I usually have to go over this maybe 2 times, or in some areas may get covered very well the first time and some not, so it's kind of hit or miss. And you know, you go back in with your pen and your embossing powder, and you get enough of a coverage on here so that once you start to brayer, your ink will not bleed through to the image you've already colored. So you know, you can do 2 coats, you can do a coat and then go back and fill in the bare areas. It's really up to you. If you start getting this really thick, once you start to brayer, then your brayer is not going to go in around these edges very well. So be careful about how thick of a coat you get on there. Okay, once my image was covered, I went in with my brayer. This is the speedball brayer that I'm using, and I brayered my ink on. I started with Bashful Blue, and then I came in with some Tempting Turquoise and finished up with this Brilliant Blue. And that's how I get the coloration. The lightest color, the medium color, and then the darkest color. You use just a little bit on the edge. And then I also use that darkest color to sponge the edge too, with just you could use a Ink Essentials tool by Ranger, or you can just use a plain old makeup sponge. It's up to you. So I brayered all my sky in there. Then I came back with some more stamps, and I stamped the tree branches, which are they're called Cherry Blossom. It's number 4520 from Scrollswork. I stamped those, and you can see how this is an outline image. Then I went in with my my black zig pen and very fine tip. So then I just went in and colored in my design so that everything was black and it looked like a shadow. Then I came in with my bamboo leaves at the bottom, the stamp, another Scrollswork stamp, which is 4518. And then I did my stamping here around the edges. And then I sponged with some black. And you know, that's the bulk of the card. Then I actually used my ticket corner punch, and I punched the corners and put this down onto a chartreuse green piece of designer paper. Then I came in with my piece of foam, and you can use a thumbtack or a paper piercer, and there's a video way back that I did on the foam and the piercing. But I pierced my corners of my paper, and I added my black brads for a decorative accent. Then I adhered those 2 layers down to my cardstock base. And this is Stampin' Up! Cardstock. You do need a heavy cardstock. If you want a high quality card, you need a real heavy cardstock to use for your base. And so that I do use the Stampin' Up! Papers for that, because I mean the Stampin' Up! Cardstock, because it is very heavy. But there are others out there that you can use. Okay, that was pretty much it for the card, and then I used one other stamp from Scrollswork called Quiet Garden. 6021 is the number for this one. Stamped that on the chartreuse paper, backed it with a little bit of the Tempting Turquoise paper, sponged the edge a little bit, and popped it up on here. And that was basically gives you the finished card for the most part. So I hope that answers most of your questions. If you have any more, just leave them for me, and I will talk to you again real soon.